I've heard though it's common though when things like this happen and people are in like sometimes when war
Yeah,
there's a baby boom because you're inside and
yeah.
so I was inside and you could only watch so much Netflix and you had to spend some time
Sometimes,
chilling and yeah
sometimes
and so that chilling left led to the baby and
Now here in the cut, we challenge our guests to finish a tub of ice cream before the end of the conversation. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. We're here on the pool table. Now on the pool table, we challenge our guests to finish a tub of ice cream before the end of the conversation. It's a very historic guest. First time in person at both studios. He missed the whole COVID era, thankfully. With a new album out. By the time you hear this, the album will be out. What Remains, Thompson Egbo-Egbo.
yo, what's up? I feel like we cheated a little bit though.
What do you mean?
Because you gave me the ice cream before we started.
For sure.
However,
Mm-hmm.
my favorite bake shop is down the street. So I'm like reaching like a sugar little like high right now because I haven't eaten. So I went and got myself. Have you been there? Short and sweet? It's
No,
just like literally.
I've seen it, but I've never got anything.
Oh man, they're cookies.
What do you recommend? Because I have a crazy sweet tooth.
What I recommend,
Mm-hmm.
which they don't have right now, so you have to get it tomorrow,
Okay.
is they got these things called Sammys. And so you get their s'more Sammy. So it's 2 chocolate chip cookies with a ring of chocolate and a melted marshmallow in the middle. I'll show you pictures of it. It's delicious.
That sounds crazy.
It's go get their Sammy, short and sweet. It's
Wow.
where it's at. If you got a sweet tooth, that's where.
Short and sweet getting a shout out. No, I have a pretty bad a sweet tooth. Like I think my issue is that like obviously I love things that are sweet, but I can't get just one. Back in my Krispy Kreme days, anyone who knows me from like 2011, 2012, Krispy Kreme had like a part of my Instagram at one point. Like you'd scroll down and see pictures of like not even me in the store, just a donut, and I would order like 6 at a time.
What's your donut though?
The regular was my go-to. But now that they have the regular that's cream filled,
oh yeah,
that's my new
they
go-to.
got cream filled or chocolate filled. I saw that. I was just like,
I didn't see they had chocolate filled.
Yeah, they had chocolate filled one now too.
That's crazy. Did you see they're taking Krispy Kreme to McDonald's in select locations?
Oh,
might be an American thing as of now,
Yeah.
but it's like they're gonna have Krispy Kreme selling at McDonald's.
Interesting. Sounds like the nutritious, like benchmarked. Yeah,
They know their audience.
yeah, for sure.
Last time you had mint chocolate chip, which I extremely disapproved of. I'm not a mint chocolate fan.
No?
I feel like those together is like, I don't know. Feels like a pretty
Really?
bad clash. It feels like when people try to put rock and rap together in the wrong way. That's mint chocolate chip to me.
What's an example of the wrong way?
Of rock and rap?
Yeah.
I feel like anything that involves Kid Rock. I don't know why Kid Rock's catching so many
but
strays.
you're okay with the Limp Bizkit? Like,
Yeah. I feel like the better you rap, the rock and rap can work. You know? Like if you can rap really well, like when Busta Rhymes did that song with Linkin Park.
You don't think rock is rap? Like what Kid Rock is doing is like, that's just not just like a white rap, you know?
But he can't really rap well. Like he's like, I would put him on the low level of rappers. Like if there was like a rap American Idol, he might not make it, you know? So I think that's what makes it kind of cringy. It's like, his rap is not really good enough. Yeah. You agree with that? Or I feel like
I don't disagree. I just like, I'm interested in your opinion.
Okay,
and
okay.
Whether I agree or disagree is, I think, irrelevant. I just want to hear what you have to say.
I was ready for you to be a huge Kid Rock fan and just go to bat for him.
No.
Okay.
No, that's not where that was going. Yeah.
Okay. I was ready for that. Before we get to the project, I want to do some catching up.
Okay.
Because last time we talked, you hadn't done the Oscar Peterson thing yet, but you were talking about doing it.
Which one?
That's all I'm asking you. What was the experience like of that? Because I've seen.
Oh no, which one?
What do you mean which one? Like the commercial, the hair tip.
Okay, the commercial. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
You're talking about the movie.
No, I'm not talking about the movie, but the commercial. Yes,
the commercial. Yeah. So
no, but I just did something recently.
Oh, so I'm on the loop then. Okay, tell me.
You're not really out of the loop, but they've put him on a coin. And it's, so they've got these commemorated coins.
Yeah.
But this one in particular is actually going to go into circulation. So 3 million of these coins with Oscar Peterson on them, you might stumble on them one day.
Okay, that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
So what about the actual like shoot? How was that like? Cause I don't think you had done it yet or hadn't come out yet, but what was that experience like? And then afterwards, what was that experience like? People like seeing it and being excited for you.
You know, I don't know. It's a good question. I just, sorry, I got asked to do it, and I was like, "That's kind of cool."
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really sure how it came to me. It was just someone was like, "Hey, they're doing this thing, and people associated with it know who you are and think that you might look the part."
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, "That's cool. I'm excited about it."
Mm-hmm.
And then that happened actually pre-COVID, and so I want to say it was almost 2 years before it actually was released. So I kind of almost had forgotten about it,
Yeah.
and then it was coming out. I was like, "Whoa, oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
this is like kind of a big deal."
No, I forgot
Yeah,
about it too. Cause when I saw it, I saw that it was you and I was like, oh, I recognize that person. And then I
yeah,
was like, oh wait, we talked about this. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It was very far after the fact, but it was
yeah,
a good
exactly right.
was a good experience and everything. Like it was cool to do.
It was like it wasn't not a cool experience. It's not that
Okay.
it wasn't a cool experience, but it was just it's funny. It's funny that doing it and being a part of it was
Yeah.
cool being a part of it,
Yeah.
but just being in it is just like, you're
Regular.
you're paid or asked to just be a part of this filming thing. So
Mm-hmm.
you're just in the throes of filming. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think you really appreciate in the moment what it is. And it had also, I think, came up very quickly when I got
Mm-hmm.
asked to do it. So I feel like when I was asked to do it, it was like the next week or something.
Oh, so it was
Or
fast.
like, yeah, so I there wasn't even enough time to even know what was even going on, and
Mm-hmm.
then and then I think I shot over 2 days or maybe one day
Yeah.
or whatever I was used for, and then it was over. So it was so
So
that's
quick,
why I was
yeah.
just like, and again, not being a part of like the development of it or anything like
Oh,
that.
you just came in for the shooting,
I
basically.
exactly. So I some of those pieces it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't. So when I say it's like, when you ask me it was a good experience or whatnot, it's that doesn't even really come to equation for me because
It wasn't
it
yours.
wasn't really, yeah, it wasn't really like that.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely some of the people involved. I know Robbie, who was like one of his proteges,
Mm-hmm.
wrote music for it, and so that was kind of cool because he's awesome. He's a great
Oh,
piano
that's pretty
player,
sick, yeah.
and but yeah, after the fact for sure, it's like cool. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, look what I
Mm-hmm.
got to be a part of,
Mm-hmm.
and that's fun, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not going anywhere. Like
That's a
I don't know if you ever saw Burnt Toast. I remember that from a kid. Did
no.
you ever see that? There's one of the
What's burnt
heritage minutes
toast?
when I was younger. I forget what the person was, like a brain surgeon or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just remember from that commercial, it's like, "Doctor, I smell burnt toast," and it was like some heritage minute thing. So,
Oh, I see.
yeah,
I
you
see
have
it
to look
here.
it up.
Yeah.
I should remember what it is. It's one of them because they used to be
More often, I feel
more
like.
often, more frequent, right?
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and I think too, like, especially when someone depicts someone who's like famous, who's not in the light right now, sometimes that's what someone thinks of. Think of that person. So there's
yeah.
probably people right now who, when they hear Oscar Peterson, they think of your face because of
That's
that.
it's funny you say that because that's funny. It's like the it's kind of cool, but like just the idea that like yeah, someone's gonna. That's not even stuff that I think about, but thanks for mentioning that.
No,
Now I
because
gotta carry that with me everywhere I go play the piano. God damn.
that's just it's so crazy because like how the world is changing, how people see things, you don't always see like what the understanding of that is, the information. And so
Yeah.
it's like I think of a movie like Ali, when it's like I know people are thinking when they think of Ali, they think of Will Smith playing Ali because they weren't allowed to actually see Ali.
Yeah.
And so something like that is like, I'm sure that maybe they hadn't thought about that when they casted you, but for however long this thing is running for, you're gonna be the kind of the face some people think of. They think of Oscar Peterson.
And be like,
So
who's that dude?
they're like,
That's funny. You know what? So was it last weekend? 2 weekends ago, I was
mhm,
in Aurelia. I was doing some shows. And I had this realization or this moment because like I love music, which sounds kind of like a no-brainer, but not.
not
I
in the
feel like
yeah.
not everybody necessarily loves what they're
Mhm,
doing. And there's some concerts I've been to or people I've seen where I'm like, man, I hope one day somebody feels the way I feel about what I'm experiencing right now, about me,
mm,
right? And so it's funny that you say that because the concert that we did was actually a choreographer who had heard my music, who had seen
mhm,
me play, who had seen me do some stuff with dancers, and pitched a show of like choreographing a whole show to all my music. And
mhm,
so whatever, you go through the process and like whatever you rehearsed or like a new song. And then you do the concert and you're like, wait a minute, like, holy shit, like that, like you did that for someone. It's like,
Really,
oh,
really, yeah.
So it's like it hadn't really dawned on me, like in preparing for it. We weren't necessarily working with the dancers a ton
Mm-hmm.
because they had to figure out what their choreography. We came together sort of at the end to do the shows.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end of it, it's like, whoa, okay, cool. So I appreciate you saying that.
So you
You
had,
know?
so you kind of had that like full circle moment once the performance was happening that you're like, oh, this is how they really felt about what I was doing.
Well, it's just like, why on earth would you
True.
do a whole show with just my music?
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I don't
yeah,
even
yeah.
think of myself that way, that someone would want
Mm-hmm.
to do that. Which is, yeah, as like, so after the fact, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's like, it's a bigger deal than you like
Mm-hmm.
realize, not because it's a big deal, but just you've created, it's a big deal in the sense that this is why you do it. You
Mm-hmm.
create music so that people will enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And here's somebody who enjoyed it so much, they found a way and a reason to try and bring you to other people.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's cool.
No, that's
Yeah.
extremely cool. I think there's a couple songs off the project that I like off rip. And before I even read like what you had written about what each song was about and all that, let's talk about the covers first, because I feel like those are going to be some of people's favorites, of course.
Yeah.
The Nirvana cover. I'll say this: like listening to that a couple times, I was like, I've never thought of this song as a song that needed to be covered. It's never been
Yeah.
one of those for me, but it somehow fit. And it's how did you think of that? Like I've never really came to my mind to be like, all right, let's cover this. But how did that come to you?
I think honestly with a lot of them, they're just an evolution of just you play because you
Mhm.
play, and if you're lucky, you get to perform just your music. But I wouldn't say if you're not,
Mhm.
but the realities of just being whatever musician, you play a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
music. And so you find yourself in different situations, you find yourself playing a lot of, covers, whatever. And that one was one, I say to people, like, we've been playing for quite some time and it's just grown. It's always been something that people have responded to in a lot of different settings.
Mhm.
And you also get asked, hey man, where's that recorded? Like, did you record that? Where's that recorded? Where did
Oh.
you record it? It's like, well,
Mhm.
I guess we should record it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What's the reaction been like when you do that live? Like,
Oh, people love it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, people
yeah, I
really
feel like
like
that one
it.
definitely gets the crowd like
Yeah.
in a whole different vibe.
Yeah, it gets them hyped. Yeah. It's hyped.
Get some hype.
Yeah.
And then you have this section, kind of a 3-part suite in the project that's talking
Yeah.
about COVID and the pandemic. We'll start with what remains. That's the name of the project.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to make that the name of the project, coming from that 3 parts thing right there?
Because what remains for me was just that, like, that's just it. Like,
Mhm.
what remains? Like, what after everything that's happened, like, what remains, and how do we move forward from there?
Mhm.
And so it's, I think a small part of it is like the pandemic, but like for me, a bigger part of it is how we responded to it, what we ignored as a result of it, who got left behind as a result of it, and just like, yeah, coming out of it, okay, cool, the dust is settling. We'll see. Like when I say the dust is settling, I think we're still a few years away from
Yeah.
understanding the dust settling. But it's just like, yeah, what remains and what are the pieces we have to pick up, and what's the damage we've done because it wasn't all good. We didn't all respond in the way that would be becoming of our human nature, right? And so I think for me that which is that there was a lot of unknown going into it. There's definitely
Mhm.
a lot of unknown coming out of it, and I think there's a lot of realities for all of us, like myself included, of just like, cool. What do we like? Where do we pick
Yeah.
up, man? Where do we pick up and go from here? And ideally, like I'd say, like I didn't really want to do something, or like I didn't really want to think of it in a COVID way because I'm
Mhm.
like you'll be, yeah, you're one of like welcome to the club, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it is, I guess, a world changing moment,
Mhm.
in one way or another. So regardless of how you feel about what happened or this, that, or what narrative you subscribe to, we're all just gonna have to figure out like how do you move forward. So, and I
Mhm.
think which is for me always just kind of like whatever keeps you moving forward. Like how do we get to that place, and who are we gonna have to apologize to because of like how we treated them, and so you know and like even if you were right, like
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
there's always there's that quote where it's better to be kind than it is to be right. And so
Mhm.
are we all gonna have these moments of just like maybe I could have like been a little bit more understanding,
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, yeah, and so what remains, I think, is just trying to really, for me, just encompass all of that, which is that, like, we got some things right, we got some things wrong,
Mhm.
and there's still some things that we think we got right that we actually got wrong or whatever, or like, or even more so, it's just like, what were the, for me, a big thing was the connection that was lost to people,
Mhm.
and just like, or was actually taken away from you,
Mhm.
so like, what was taken is just like, man, like I was kind of the crazy person though. We walked down the street, I was always
Yeah.
just like, yo, you hugging? I was always hugging people. Like, yeah, I
Stop.
was like,
Yo,
I
you
mean,
hugging is
yeah,
crazy.
I walk down the street, I see people because you didn't know how to interact with people. Some people holding hands, some people are
Mhm.
just like, yeah, I'm just gonna stand there.
Mhm.
I just be like, are you hugging? I'm
Oh my
hugging.
god.
Yeah,
That,
yeah,
that that was me too. Like when I saw family, I was there. Like I
yeah,
said, if I'm gonna go out, this is how we doing it.
yeah.
And they're like, stop, stop. I'm like, no, no, no. Like
Well,
we have to. Like.
yeah, and not to go into it, I
Mhm.
think that's like very, very fair, right? Because I had a thing, and fortunately for me,
Mhm.
I say very fortunate because I know a lot of people weren't so blessed, but like my family was like really cool
Yeah.
about like everything. Like they're very just sort of open about like how do you really feel, whatever. And my middle sister has a bunch of kids,
Mhm.
and my parents aren't in a seniors residence, but they're in a building that happens to have a lot more seniors, like a
Yeah.
co-op. My mom kept being like, "Yo, I'm coming over," and my sister would be
Oh,
like,
for
"Don't come
real.
over. The building you're in, maybe we should be a little more cautious."
Mhm.
And I'd say to her, I'm like, "Yo, let her come over, man. You think if like really if this is the last like couple of days of her life, like she'd rather be hugging you and spending time with her
Mhm.
family,"
Mhm.
which I know was a little for some people would have seemed insensitive, but I think there's an element of just like people die, right? And
Yeah.
so what there's no, I guess there's no sure bet, is I think the best way to say it is, so
Mhm.
you could have isolated and still, life could have still been tough, or you could have gone to see people and things would have been just fine, right?
Mhm.
And we saw that. I know for me, one of the things that hit home was just like a lot of the work I do with different communities,
Mhm.
and like early on, I was very sensitive, or it was very it was very much in the forefront of mind of like how overdoses were like
Oh
just out of
yeah.
control, how people were literally dropping dead in the streets, and
Mhm.
people didn't know, especially like the first year. I think it wasn't really something, but this city was very overwhelmed with what was going on. And and so the best way I can put it to people is that the what happened did was not a neutral experience for everyone.
Mhm.
So although some of you got to stay home and still collect your incomes as that wasn't the experience everybody had. And so although we understand, or people, we can come to this understanding of why things were done, it wasn't a neutral impact on a lot of people, right?
Mhm.
And so like what we talked about before you started recordings, your buddy was like, I able to shoot down around the world, or I knew people who went down to Mexico. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna hide out in Mexico, which is a different experience if you didn't have a job that allowed for you to do that, or
Exactly.
whatever. And and that's not for me, like all of it's like not a judgment of anything, but it was just understanding that like one, the rules don't apply equally. We've seen that with tons of things, but
For
also
sure.
the impacts didn't as well. And
Mhm.
so now we've got to look at how that worked,
Mhm.
and how did that impact people from different places. So yeah.
Man, I feel like we got to be more understanding because I like what remains because everyone went through a change during that time. There's no
Yeah.
one who was unchanged, whether it was a huge net positive or a huge net negative or however you want to look at it personally. There's no
No.
one who can say it. I did exactly the same thing I was doing before. Whether it was different friends you had,
Yeah.
whatever it is, everyone went through a change. And then you mentioned it a little bit, but I want to talk about the song "What Was Taken."
Yeah.
It's my favorite song on here.
Oh, nice.
But you say
That's
take
a voice note, man.
really,
Yeah, a lot of the album are voice notes.
really.
It didn't even occur to me until I forget, I was talking to somebody, I think last week, and they were asking me about it because I had some other
Mm,
plans for what the next record would be.
yeah,
And obviously, people weren't getting together the same way. And I was just like, oh, well, you got a ton of stuff on your phone. You should like really go through what's on your phone.
yeah.
And like that whole suite came from the phone. Anthem
Really?
Rising came from my phone. It was just like
That's
stuff that was
crazy.
on my phone. And not even done as like a whole song. It was like literally pieces from here
Mhm.
where I was just like, and I'm lazy, and so I
Mm.
had, a competition teacher's like, you should write things out, and I'm like, I don't want to write things out. That's why I started using voice notes because I'm like, I didn't
I'm
want to.
screaming.
But then I was just like, oh, let's go through the exercise of putting this
No.
stupid stuff on paper, and then I was like, oh, why did I write this stuff? Or like this stuff seems to kind of line
Mhm.
up with this. Let me pull this over here. So stuff that wasn't even recorded on different days
Oh, so you're
seemed to.
putting voice notes together.
Yeah, I was putting voice notes together. I'm like, so, some of this stuff seems to like fit. Like,
Mhm.
we should just whatever. We should do it. Like, yeah,
I don't know. Okay, so as a voice note, that's
yeah,
interesting. I thought that was cool because you said what was taken instead of what was lost. What?
yeah.
Well, why did you choose to use taken especially? Because I feel like we said, everyone's experience was different, and you can phrase it however you would like to. But I think taken instead of lost is kind of important.
Because for me, that's how I look at it. Like, literally, what was taken. Like, what did
Mm,
we take from people, and what did we allow to be taken? And like
mm.
that was because that's how I see it. Some
Yeah,
people might see it the other way, like
yeah,
you said.
yeah,
Some
yeah,
people might
yeah.
see like, oh, we lost a lot. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
nah,
Mm-hmm.
that's not. It's
Mm.
not. That's not where. That's not where I'm coming from with it. So.
Are we done here?
I did, but remember I said I feel like I cheated though.
Okay, listen, for the record, point it to the camera while you tell everyone that you cheated. I want it to be like
Yeah.
fully documented.
It's empty. It's
Oh
empty.
my goodness. Yeah. I feel like too, like during the pandemic, I was working in person a lot.
Yeah.
So I was like, I understand everyone's fear, but I'm like, I don't really have a choice. I work 6 days a week and I'm working in person. So,
Yeah.
it's like everyone's experience changed. And then the end of
I
it.
feel like you felt it was a little different because I was working in person too, still
Mm,
going in. And
yeah.
so I feel like in general, I didn't have the same anxiety as a lot of people that
Yeah,
I knew
same.
who just stayed at home.
Hmm.
And, I mean, there's elements I think that's obvious why.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a bunch of things. So it's like, I was still getting exercise. I was removing myself. I was seeing people.
Yeah.
And and it was weird to see so much changing but not changing too
Hmm.
while doing that. And so
Yeah.
uh and also too, I feel like saw these like ebb and flows of how
For
the
sure.
feelings of it, like we're changed, we're moving
Mhm.
around.
Yeah.
um Even too, like, it's not really a joke, but I say to people like, it was really interesting how this thing wasn't really dangerous when it was in China, and then like it got over here all of a sudden, like, yo, we need to be
Deadly.
careful, right? It's like,
Deadly.
I'm like, what's that all about, right? So but
Or that first month where black people were saying black people couldn't get it.
yeah,
So,
yeah, that's hilarious.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's all and then the other thing too is I think the going outside thing was like the first big concert I went to like once things opened up was Maroon
Yeah.
5. And
Oh,
I think that
nice.
was one of the first big concerts in the city, period.
Yeah.
And it was like a lot of people that they were like, oh, masks are supposed to be on during the whole concert, even though it was at Budweiser. And
Yeah, good luck.
so
Yeah.
here's what happened. They said, if you don't want to wear your mask, you can only not wear your mask if you have food or drink. So everyone's like, okay, I'll have my water and take
Yeah.
3 hours to drink it. That food line was
Yeah.
out the ass.
It
No,
was almost like a conspiracy, like, well, these guys haven't made a lot of money in a while, so let's make sure the concessions are like,
and so everyone was in that line. Everyone was buying food. You get to like the actual
Yeah.
concert, they're not enforcing anything.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't have their mask on. And so that was the first time I was like, it's almost like these rules are suggestions.
Well, so
In certain places.
that was one, again, not to go into it deeply like there.
Mm.
One of my challenges with some of the things like that was, I said, that the moment it becomes like something that needs to be enforced, we know that it will disproportionately impact certain people more than it does others. So that was
Exactly.
always why, like, for me, a lot of it
Mm.
was like, because I'll have arguments with friends, and I'm like, nah, for me, it's more of a social issue, because I'm like, there are things that we know won't be
Mm.
handed down proportionally, like people won't impact it proportionally, right?
Mhm.
And so and so it was interesting about seeing people be like, yo, these are the rules, whatnot, but like they'll break their own rules. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, stay in your house, you shouldn't do nothing. And I'm like, oh, yo, but what about the fact that like they told you all this hunker in
Mhm.
place, but you all went to your cottage and hung out and said not to overwhelm the small little
Come
communities,
on.
right?
Come on.
So there was like a whole bunch of things where I was just like, yeah, no. People have to figure out, because I was very much, again, like, I'm fortunate that I'm not really somebody that
Mhm.
like, deals with many mental health, but I'm like, some people need that to keep sane, to stay alive, to
Yeah.
deal with what's going on at home, to
Mhm.
deal with those pressures, those uncertainties. And now we're like making them feel bad for like needing to like have their true expression, to
Yeah.
live life, whatever. You know, a lot of again, you know, people think that's insensitive or whatever and whatnot, but that wasn't like I was very much one of the things I saw, which was a common theme for me, and I've been fortunate that, you know, I have friends all across the spectrum, which was like if you had the means and resources, it didn't matter how you felt about what you felt about, you were probably fine. If you didn't, you were in trouble.
Yeah.
And like it
It's
just
that simple.
like it was just yeah, you know, it wasn't like there wasn't you know, really you know, that was like the line. It wasn't like a color line. It was literally like, you know, resources or no and none. And so that was I wouldn't even say unfairity because nothing's fair, but just the unwillingness to have that conversation, or at least again have the empathy to be like, maybe this won't work for everyone. Just
Yeah.
seem to be
I like you
completely
said
lost.
unwillingness. I think that
Yeah.
was a really good word to use. Unwillingness. I think that was a huge thing, and like we'll get past this in a second. But what possibilities takes me to that thought process of like
Yeah.
how are we going to behave and treat people after this whole thing is done?
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge part of it. It's like
Yeah.
everyone can feel how they feel, but how are we going to continue to treat each other? Because there was that time, no matter what issue it was, whatever it was, where it was very combative on
Yeah.
either side. And
Oh, for
so
sure.
how are either side for any issue? How are we going to treat each other moving forward? And is that something that we're going to prioritize in terms of treating each other better, or are we like I'm standing my ground and
Yeah.
stick in the mud? So that's what I'm interested to see moving forward. Because you're talking about, you know, moving past the destruction, moving forward.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the destruction is like how we talk to other people. I think about couples and families that were broken up over this.
Yeah.
And it's
lots
like,
of them, man, saw that personally, right? So
yeah. So it's like stuff like that is like thinking about where we are now. If we had a better way of treating each other,
yeah.
you know, maybe that would be very, very different.
Yeah, or a better way of treating themselves. I had a kid actually over COVID, so I'm the other opposite cliche.
COVID baby.
Yeah, COVID baby. Yeah,
Yeah, the COVID babies and the COVID dogs.
yeah,
They
yeah. Everyone had the. I'm not really into
Mhm.
the dogs. I apologize to any animal lovers. But yeah, it wasn't planned. It was.
Mhm.
I've heard though it's common though when things like this happen and people are in like sometimes when war
Yeah.
is a baby boom because you're inside,
Yeah.
and so I was inside and you could only watch so much Netflix and you had to spend some time
Sometimes
chilling.
I
And
do.
yeah, and so that chilling left, you know, led to the baby. And
I wasn't ready for that one. I was not ready for that one. You
yeah.
can only do so much Netflix times. You gotta do some chilling.
Yeah.
100%. Oh man, congratulations, by
Thanks,
the way.
man.
This song was I would say the anthem as well and Cola Cherry. Those are the two songs on here that I was like sound different than a lot of everything else. Tell me about Cola Cherry, because I feel like it's such a interesting choice at the end,
Yeah.
and such a different vibe.
So it's funny. So the last record we had the track, that single, It's Not That Serious.
Mhm.
And so part of that came out of just, hey, we're in the studio, there's a little bit of extra time. Let's just do something, like make something up, make a couple things up. And what was annoying about It's Not That Serious is it gets asked for all the time.
Really?
All of people just want it. And what was even crazy is what I was telling you about the show I did with the dancers. They picked that tune.
Of course.
And so I had to learn the tune. And basically the way I'd structured it is like, hey, this is how long the tune is. Here's the structure of it. I just improvised on the song. Then I went to go do it with the dancers. They're like, no, you can't do that because we're relying on the, you know, melodies.
Being it the certain way.
Yeah, we're relying on those melodies. When you did that on the piano, I'm like, yo, but I made that up, man. And so, yeah. So anyway, so this one's a dangerous one for me because it's the same thing, you know, a little bit extra time. Yeah, let's just have some fun. Let's see what comes out of it.
Yeah, it's a vibe.
We've been playing with each other for so long. So like, you know, it's not so much that it's not going to suck. It's that it'll go somewhere. And if we use it, we use it. If not, maybe it's material for something else. And so we came up with this. And in fact, I even forgot about it. And like my drummer was like, yo, we got to make sure we put that on. I'm like, what? Like, all right, I guess so, man. I'm like, sure, we'll put it on the record, you know? So, but yeah, people, and then inevitably people are like, yo, I like that tune. I'm like, no,
God.
don't tell me you like that tune, man.
No, it's like hip hop, but everyone loves the freestyles.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You went in there, did something once, don't even have to remember, and everyone's like, that's what I want to hear every single time.
Oh, for sure. Now I got to go learn it. So, yeah.
Do you have a personal favorite from this project?
Personal favorite? I think it would be What Remains.
Mhm.
So actually, the story, what was taken with Possibilities, Anthem, those are voice notes. What Remain actually was written as part of, I was doing I got asked to do some music for a catalog with a
Mhm.
company called the Audio Network. And so that was a little bittersweet. I was supposed to, this is actually why this record comes out, is
Mhm.
that I was supposed to go to the UK and record the project at Abbey Road.
Oh.
And pandemic hits,
Yeah,
people aren't
yeah.
really traveling, or at least not sanctioning traveling.
Yeah.
And so, they were like, okay, you can record it in Toronto. You
Mhm.
get your musicians. I'm like, cool. So that meant I could be in the studio, and I was just like, oh, might as well pay for an extra day, a
Mhm.
little bit more time, and let's record a record as well while we're doing that. And when I initially written the music for them, I had to write about 14 pieces for them. That was a part of it,
What
and they didn't like it.
Remains?
Yeah, they didn't want it, and I was just like,
Wow.
"Great." I didn't even really want to give it to you because
Uh,
I actually felt that way. I was like, "Oh, I
yeah.
really like this." I don't
Mhm.
know, you write so much, and then inevitably something you like really sticks with you. And I was just like, "Man, you need to put this apart." And they're like, "Oh no, we're good with that one." I don't think the project was supposed to be a trio, straight ahead jazz, so it wasn't, I guess,
Yeah.
straight ahead enough of them. I was kind of more thinking
Interesting.
alongs of like, God Bless a Child with the tune in terms of
Mhm.
that like ballady, but yeah, I wasn't for it. And so it meant like, great, I've got another piece. And then what was cool about that was with this one in particularly, I was in New York basically the week or two before like the lockdowns came.
Okay.
And there's a piano player that I really like, love his playing. His name's Aaron Parks. And so I reached out to him on Instagram. I'm like, hey man, I'm in New York.
Mhm.
Like, would you be up for giving me a lesson or just walking through some stuff I'm going through? I'd love to just like, sit
Mhm.
with you. And he's like, yeah, cool. And that was one of the tunes I worked through with him.
Mhm.
And really happy about the way, it came together. And so it was funny because that's a piece of like of
Yeah,
that whole
that time.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I like that they turned it down because I like What Remains on here a lot. Like What Was Taken and What Remains are probably my two favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm happy that they said no to that.
Yeah, I'm happy too. Yeah.
Mhm. I can't remember if we did this years ago, but I feel like there's been enough time we can run these back. These are the questions that we ask everyone on
Yeah.
the cool table. And before we do
We should
all,
compare them to the last answers. I wonder if I answer them the
yeah, I know,
same
but
way.
maybe that's what we'll do. We'll do like a little side by side video of each of the
Yeah.
answers. Um,
Yeah, see, did he get cool or did he just get
did
old?
did he get cool or did he get
right?
old?
Exactly.
I feel like you know what you got to
Is
you
he
probably
still cool enough for the table? Is the question,
he's
Yeah.
so cool enough for the table.
Yeah.
Always, always. You're a living legend, man. Always. We got to talk about the Raptors. The season has started. I think it was a championship season that we talked
Yeah.
last time. It was around there.
Yeah.
So things are obviously a little different than that time. But
Yeah.
how have you been feeling about the season so far, just from the first couple of games?
You know what? So I'll have to tell you, man, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
it's weird. I've gone from like a bit of a diehard
Yeah.
to a little bit of a fair weather.
Oh, you've
Right? I'm
you've
like,
retired your fandom.
I've regressed a little bit. I would say it's
Oh,
just early
okay.
because what happened was I used to have cable.
Mm-hmm.
And then when baby came and had
Mm-hmm.
to move different places, whatever, and it was time to like get that connection, the cable, and like whatever internet and whatnot. I was
Yeah.
like, yo, we should get this package, or at least you get no, like we don't watch TV, so you don't need to, So I can't watch live sports at home, and I haven't been able to go out to watch live sports because I've
Yeah, of
had a
course.
responsibility. So
Of course.
but he's starting to get to a place where he almost might start sleeping through the night.
Okay.
So
Fingers crossed.
and there's
Fingers
a spot
crossed.
around the corner so I can get out and watch
Okay.
some games.
Okay.
I would say I was a little disappointed in the way season ended last year, and
Yes,
and so
definitely.
I just been like, you know what? There's no rush. We can wait till after Christmas.
Mhm.
And,
Okay, yeah, you got
and,
time.
yeah,
You got time. Yeah, I've only seen half of one of the games,
yeah.
but whenever everyone tell me Pascal's playing amazing. That's
But
what
I
everyone's
saw.
saying.
I'm excited to see. What's the kid's name from I want to say Ben Stiller, but I can't stand that guy. The other comedian. I used to not like him,
Mhm.
but I like him now because I was playing at a restaurant one night and he tipped me $100. So I'm like,
Oh,
okay.
yeah,
Adam
solid.
Sandler. I didn't really find him funny. I didn't really find him funny. And
Bo.
then he tipped me and I was like, you know what? He's all right.
He's cool.
However,
Mhm.
his Netflix movies,
He's doing better with the Netflix movies.
Yo, Uncut Gems is
and the other one too.
Yeah, the one with Queen Latifah. That's a great movie, man.
Yeah, I thought he was washed. Like he's having a little renaissance with these Netflix movies for sure.
He's the only one putting. I shouldn't say he's the only one putting good stuff out, but there is a lot of stuff that came out through the last 2 years that was complete garbage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Respectfully.
Not respectfully. It was like didn't deserve to be. We clearly were in dire need of content. But his movies,
they're good.
They're good. What is that one? Hustle?
Hustle, yeah. Hustle is really good. Hustle's really good.
Great movie. Like good for it. But I was surprised at how well
Uncut Gems was.
Oh man, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Funny story about Garnett though. Yeah. You want to hear it?
Of course.
Really fun story. So there's a restaurant that I play. I will remain unnamed because I'm not supposed to say, which is stupid because it's easy enough to figure it out. But whatever. So Garnett comes in one night, and he's coming with a friend, and so he's hanging out, and they've got him in a private room. So it's a quiet night, so it's like it's not a big deal, whatever. He's just having a blast. He's a great dude. Like that guy he's a lot of fun. He's like he comes off as fun. And so he's in the room, and I wasn't in that night, but I found out I was in the next night. And they're like, yeah, so he's here, and they're hanging out, but they'd been there for like 40 minutes and hadn't ordered any food, but we were leaving them alone, trying to give them privacy. So the manager on duty that night was like, when he goes in the room, he's like, hey, Mr. Garnett, like, you haven't eaten yet. I see you're having a great time. I don't want to rush you, but I also want to make sure that you're being taken care of. Can I get you some appetizers or something? And he's like, yeah, sure. Like, what do you guys have? He goes, well, we have some oysters. And he's like, oh, I love oysters. What do you have? He goes, we have some East Coast, we have some West Coast. So Garnett's like, you know what? I'll have 64 of those. And so the manager's like, you'd like 64 oysters? Like East Coast, West Coast? He goes, yeah, just some, whatever you got. Just, bring me 64. So he goes, okay, we're 64 oysters. We're bringing 64 oysters up to you, right? So like reinforcing it that's what he wants. So whatever, they go away. And 20 minutes later, they come in. It's like 5 or 6 servers, all with trays.
Yeah.
Garnett gets up. He's like, whoa, what the hell is this? He goes, I'm sorry. You said you wanted 64 oysters. He goes, no. I wanted 60-40. Like split them up a dozen, 60-40.
I'm screaming.
Fortunately, the person he was with was like, Kevin, you said 64 like 3 times.
Called him out.
So gets a little funnier than that, but I'll keep that, those whatever. But that's kind of hilarious. But he was good in that too, man.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be pretty bad because I'm like, Kevin Garnett acting, it's a little... But no, he did his thing. His thing. So, listen, whatever NBA movie Adam Sandler wants to do, basketball movie Adam Sandler wants to do, I'm watching it. Hustle, I was dubious. He proved me wrong.
It was good. I was... I don't know. I shouldn't have been pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised, but it was fantastic.
Yeah. There's no holes in that movie, and I gave him credit for being even married to Queen Latifah in a fake way.
Yeah.
I feel like even the real Adam Sandler couldn't get the fake Queen Latifah.
Yeah.
So I was like, even in the movie, I'll give him the credit for that.
I feel like they're the right ones to be married to each other,
right?
For all the obvious reasons, for all the obvious in real life, this just would.
They would so be a couple. Yeah.
But you know what? I feel like, there's also, there's also the comedian side of things that we forget that fraternity is such a tight knit. So like, you'll see stuff that doesn't make sense to you, then you understand like the community, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. I wonder. I'm interested. I wonder where those that was what my thinking was like. I wonder where their lives cross, and like how long they've been friends. I bet they've been cool for a very long time.
That's what I always think about, especially like those celebrities who have been famous since the 90s.
Yeah,
like I thought about that with the Chris Rock and Will Smith thing.
Yeah,
that I was like, Queen Latifah has been at top of their game since before 2000. Same with Adam Sandler. So there's definitely a path where they could have known each other.
And it's like you say that like the Will Smith's so weird, but like even remember she was on Fresh Prince, and like thinking about it then, it's like she would have been bigger than him
at that time.
Right? So like
so it's like because it's as well as like Lil Kim and Foxy and that whole era comes a little bit afterwards. So at that time she would have been the most popular female rapper of all time. At that time, so
and she would have been a different female type
Mhm.
rapper,
Exactly.
because it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like you don't, because it's a whole,
I, li-
that's like
I,
Lil
li-
Kim and
I like
Foxy
I
Brown
like how you
break.
said that. I like I
Yeah,
like how you said
no,
that.
but like I don't even mean it
No,
maybe
no,
there, but it's like there's
different, a whole different.
yeah,
Yeah, the game changed.
yeah,
The
game real
the
change, the content
yeah,
change,
no,
like
the game
yeah,
definitely changed.
yeah.
I want to know who's your like top 5 right now. People in your life who help you be you. They say the top 5 people in your life help shape who you are. Now it could be 2 people, it could be 10 people, but who are the people in your life who kind of help shape who you are right now?
That's so unfair, and the reason why is like I probably said this. I feel like the first
Mhm.
time I was on, but for people who know me, like I am literally the luckiest person I know,
Mhm.
and I've been so fortunate that uh that people that I've just like, man, I always have awesome people in my life. People are
Mhm.
always supporting me, always helping open doors, and so I've been fortunate that, when you say the top 5, I'm like, man, like who gets left off that list is really
That
is for me,
that's
right?
why we
So,
ask. We love
right.
leaving people off.
Yeah, yeah, I don't yeah, top 5, man.
It doesn't have to be a
Uh
5, but just the people who you want to give a shout out to who kind of help shape who you are.
uh well, that's yeah, those are two different shout-outs and type. You know what? Actually, so I would give the label,
Mhm.
Monarch, formerly E1, but Chris Taylor, who's been, he's one of those people when I say like, yo, luckiest person I know. So
Mhm.
Chris, um, when he was just at the law firm he has, but doing in the work he's done, he's been a big supporter of one of the music schools I went to as a kid. Always
Yeah.
been a big supporter, and even this whole, just thinking about the whole progression up to this point, which is less 1 year,
Mhm.
I'm at, when he first gets the job at E1, there's a gentleman who's a big philanthropist in the art space, but also in different spaces as well. Gary Slate, he's also been a big supporter. He's like, hey, Thompson, I'm going to buy all your records
Mhm.
and make sure we hand it out to the guests for, there was a big fundraiser for the music school I went to as a kid. Chris was at the event. He's like, oh man, you're like recording, you're doing stuff, man. I just started this new job. Like, you should come over here and like we'll help you put out records. And
Mhm.
I'm like, really? He's like, yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, really? Yeah,
Mhm.
really? It's like, so for me, it's just it's cool. Like I probably have a million stories like that
Yeah.
about a million different things.
Mhm.
Definitely big shout out to him. Big shout
Mhm.
out to it's funny because people are always like, "Yeah, you think the label and it sounds so corny," and I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
why then. But then you're like, oh man, you get into like a little family and like people are like
Yeah.
really taking care of you.
Mhm.
For all the challenges that it might be that
Mhm.
certain people might allude to, and it's like, which is like, okay, whatever.
Mhm.
But while you're on the ride and while it's working for you, like for sure.
Mhm.
Um, Other people, honestly, like it would be like it's not even that I can't think of anyone. It's just like, who goes next. I actually got the same of that lineage. So funny
Mhm.
enough, through some of the work I was doing in Regent Park, I don't know if you know about the work, but Daniels Corporation is a big, like
Mhm.
they were basically did most of the redevelopment. Now Tridale's gotten it. But the head of the organization, Mitchell Cohen, is a musician. He's always taken an interest in
Mhm.
what's happening in the community at a very like personal level. So it's one thing for an organization to be like, oh, we're helping, whatever.
Yeah.
But he's always on the ground doing stuff, trying to meet people, trying to
Mhm.
figure out how he can do. Cool side note about him is he's also a musician as well, and he's
Damn.
got a fundraiser that he does that he had been doing yearly for a place called the Daniel Spectrum, but also for arts communities in Regent Park.
Mhm.
And so that's coming up again in a couple of weeks. But he helped me fund um, a new standard. And
Oh.
I sort of was at Berkeley, was living in Greece, moved back to Toronto. He's like, hey man, I'd love to like do something like support like your music. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. Then I went and did a solo piano thing. He's like, oh, that's really nice. Remember I said I wanted to like,
Yeah.
support, not something he would tell anybody. I don't even usually tell him. He probably would hate the fact that I've said it now. But he's like, yeah, he's like, let's like, I'd love to, fund that art side of what you're
Wow.
doing. And so from there, that kind of leads into like us at
Mhm.
this moment, right? And so I think for me, when I think about some of like when you ask that, like, top 5, I also think about people who planted seeds or created, openings that
Yeah.
then just spread wide
Grew.
open and grew
Yeah.
into something else. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll leave it there just because
Mhm.
honestly, there really could be so many more, and
Mhm.
there are so many more. Not that there could be, but speaking musically, anyways, I think for me, and also when when we talked about some of the stuff
Mhm.
earlier, like part of it is that like when you lose that connection to people, man, it's like you lose also good things. And so,
Yep.
we were talking about the resources versus resources, but the other side of it is being resourceful.
Mhm.
And so sometimes when you have people around you who can help you be resourceful, because when you're in a place where you don't necessarily have all those resources,
Mhm.
that's just as impactful. So, if there is to say something about what remains is like finding that connection so we can all,
Mhm.
kind of share in this opportunity, right? So,
I love that you gave all that kind of positive feedback on your situation musically because I feel like people only speak about that when it's negative. Like people don't usually speak up to say, people are helping me out. This is going well so far. Like I'm liking this.
yeah.
So I like because that's even like just like you said is rare. People usually only speak like, but it's when it's negative, you know.
Yeah,
So
but
I
even
think
if it,
that's I
yeah,
like that. I like that you even took the time to do that because I you know what I'm talking
yeah,
about.
no, for sure. I feel
Mhm.
like even if it wasn't going well, like let's say
Mhm.
it didn't work out,
Yeah,
even getting the opportunity to try, man, that's a big deal.
but it is. It
That's
is.
like some people don't even get to try. Like I've gotten a
It's,
chance to like more than try,
mhm.
and see see possibilities and potentials that like I kind of like I wouldn't
Mhm.
say dreamed of, definitely dreamed of because
Mhm.
like why are you doing this if you're not chasing dreams?
Yeah.
But also being like in moments where like I was saying like that moment,
Mhm.
doing the show where it's like, oh wow, like you didn't even realize like you were dreaming about this is something you've been dreaming
Mm.
about. It just happened,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know. But you're on to the next thing. So you
Mhm.
forgot to like be, you have to remember, be thankful for what just
Yeah,
happened
yeah,
because
yeah.
that was something, you could have only wished for that to happen.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like the thing that I learned over this pandemic is to like spend even if it's only a day or an hour to like be grateful for whatever that thing is. Because especially in this business, things move so fast. Like so fast. We're like by this win that happened, this
Yeah.
great night that happened, the next week you got a whole nother show.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you got to promote that or whatever it is. So it's like
Yeah.
at least noticing in the moment to try and enjoy the moment, and then afterwards to have that moment of gratitude. Extremely, extremely important. This is our last one, and we're looking for a quote for you for our Wednesday Wisdom segment. Something motivational, something that's keep you going that either you tell yourself or you share with others. So,
Yeah.
is there a quote for you that just is always either on your mind or at the tip of your tongue?
On my mind, I'm sure there's bunch now I gotta think of um a quote. I would say like it gets better, man. Everything's
Mm-hmm.
temporary. That's for me is just like whatever situation you're in right now, and like it's easy to kind of get wrapped up into the moment of what it is
Mm-hmm.
and forget that like there's something on the other side. And so, it can be better, and so that's like how do you yeah, I think for me, like if there's a quote, it's not even a quote, it's just like what's the next step? How do you move forward, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like any progress is good progress. And so that's kind of how I'm, approaching everything right now. And it's just like how do we move forward and step by step, like take it in chunks. So
I like that. It gets better. I feel like there's someone told me this during the pandemic. Progress, not perfection,
yeah.
is a good one as well. So yeah, I feel like listen, this has been a pandemic episode.
Yeah.
All your pandemic talks you wanted to have, we had them here on this episode. Definitely a lot of gratitude in this episode. We practiced a lot of gratitude here at the cool table.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, you know what? I don't even care that you were late. Yeah.
Let's not go that far.
Yeah.
Let's not go that. I cared. I cared. And you finished the ice cream. Yeah,
Yeah,
to be fair, you had a bit of a head start
I
for
did.
sure.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't want it to melt. Like, who wants
Mhm.
melty ice cream? Unless it was in a milkshake, and that's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
But
Listen,
it wasn't a milkshake.
I
I thought you were gonna bring it to me in a cone. I got a little disappointed by that, but
yeah.
yeah.
People have asked for a cone. I think maybe that has to be something we look into. But I feel like it's even harder to talk with a cone in your hand than even the ice cream.
Well, just like melt, but that's part of the fun, right? It's part of the fun. You should get them like a plastic bib or something, and they
Mm-hmm.
just like it'd be like they're eating like
Yeah.
crab or whatnot, right?
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make a whole thing
Maybe
about it.
that.
You could brand it,
Maybe
cool table, like
I was gonna say a summer segment. We got a cool table bib,
yeah,
and we just sit outside on the street on the hottest time of the day. Yeah, no, I think that would be extremely messy, but I'm not eating ice cream, so why do I care? No, but we appreciate having you here every time. You finish the ice cream once again,
Yeah.
a whole bunch of gems. The project will be out. By the time you hear this, What Remains will be out. Before we go, give us like a song that you want to send people to. If they're gonna only choose one song off this project to kind of get them started.
Oh, they might as well start with What Remains, right?
Oh,
Like,
there you go.
I think it's beautiful. That one, that when we talked about just like figuring it out. So my vision,
Mm-hmm.
or not, I wouldn't say vision, one of the things I really wanted for this album was to have strings on it or do something with strings.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, oh, it wasn't gonna happen. And so again, you get opportunities. So I did something, I don't know who gave him the name, but this artist named I was like, hey, I got to do this recording at Union Station late at night. A couple of my songs, it's this acoustic thing for my record coming out. And so I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'd do it. So it was me and a quartet. And I was like, whoa.
Oh, yeah,
It's like,
that's
you
why.
wanted strings and you have these 3 songs you thought would be beautiful for strings. Maybe they'd be into recording it. And I just finished recording. I was like, maybe, I'll tell my mixer not to touch those songs, see if they can do it. Talk to them. They're like, yeah, we'd love to put, strings on. Let's work on it. So we worked together, figured out arrangement within a week, had, arrangement to give to my engineer. And so that one, like, it almost was not,
Almost didn't happen.
Almost didn't happen with strings. And like, I didn't even think, to me, it was almost a foregone conclusion it wasn't going to happen. That's the next project.
You kind of accepted it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then this opportunity came and I accepted, and that was produced from it. And so, yeah. So for me, for a lot of reasons and how it came together, why it came together, makes that moment a little special.
I feel like that has to be something that we talk about next time, because there's a few moments you just mentioned already that are like kind of fork in the road moments. Even What Remains, you almost gave it away. Then you almost didn't have strings.
Yeah.
So it's like, some of these songs have a few moments where it's like, what you got on the record almost didn't happen. So
yeah. For sure.
I think that's pretty cool. If you made it to the end of this episode, please make sure you go ahead and subscribe. I think that's the right thing to do. Get your life together. Subscribe to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. Wherever you listen to podcasts, maybe go ahead and subscribe. Leave us a rating and a review, 5 stars, not a single star less. And find us on the interwebs, The Cool Table Live on Instagram, The Cool Table Live on YouTube. And of course, until next time, know yourself, know your worth.